On the issue of law and order, you have been seeing the indiscipline and anarchic conduct of some of the opposition, guided by the wrong politics in their heads and prompted by parasitic foreigners that back them. They make many mistakes. These include transporting audiences to create the image of big crowds at the venues. Those arrested following Mr. Kyagulanyi at Mile 4 in Mbarara confessed that they had a fleet of possibly 200 vehicles transporting those nomadic audiences. You then have the Kyagulanyi schemes of causing chaos in the country on behalf of the foreigners that fund them and back them. Mr. Kyagulanyi and his evil foreigners that back him fail to understand that Uganda is a land of spiritual and political matters. The spiritual matters like Karoli Rwanga, etc., the political matters like Rutamaguzi are very good examples for the present generations. Many Ugandans, especially those that have been with the opposition, get flabbergasted by those schemes and link up with us and peacefully dissolve those schemes. Do you remember Tajja Kurayira? Do you remember Gen Z plan for the 4th of July, 2024, for the riots like those of Kenya, etc.? Do you remember those? They were rejected by the people. Have you noticed the number of NUP flag bearers for parliament that are pulling out? The criminal opposition must also stop intimidating Ugandans. You have no right to intimidate a Ugandan. Therefore, Ugandans, come out and vote. Nobody would intimidate you or endanger your security. Anybody who tries will have himself to blame and will end up badly. The future of Uganda is bright. Our first oil will come out next year. Regarding the police methods, I reject the practice of caning lawbreakers. Some police forces in the world do it, using batons. I, however, reject it. It must stop. Teachers and parents used to cane us, but it was a wrong method. However, using tear gas for rioters is both legal and non-lethal. Doesn't kill. It is much better than using live bullets. However, the police should be more methodical if they are to use tear gas or water cannons or other non-lethal techniques by, for instance, requesting in time the bystanders to move away before using tear gas and other anti-riot non-lethal methods against the rioters. The police should use loudspeakers to warn people and give people time to pull away. I have been busy campaigning and have not been following the antics of the opposition actors. I have, however, heard that the mobile audiences of Mr. Kyagulanyi have been looting people in some cases. I last heard of the attacks on people I talked to myself in Abim, Karamoja. These ones I talked to myself, who were attacked by the gangs of Mr. Kyagulanyi. Uganda is secure. Go out and vote. Uganda and NRM are unstoppable. Politics is not about the livelihood of leaders. To solve the problem of jobs for some people. It is about the destiny of peoples. That destiny is guided by principles that arise from the analysis and the determination of how the respective societies can be safe and prosperous. In the case of Uganda, in the 1960s, our student movement disagreed with the sectarian politics of that time of religion and tribe. We eventually distilled our principles of love, Uganda, patriotism. Why? It is because you need it for your prosperity. If you are a wealth creator and not a parasite, you need Uganda as a market for your products. Banyankole do not buy my milk. They do not buy my beef or buy my bananas because they are producing similar products. It is the people of Kampala that buy my products. I also buy the products from other parts of Uganda. Sugar from Busoga, Buganda, and Bunyoro, vegetable oil from Karangara, textiles from Buganda, etc. The second principle is that we should love Africa, Pan-Africanism. Why? It is because the internal market of Uganda is not enough. However, we cannot benefit from these two markets unless we undergo socio-economic transformation by migrating from Okore Echida Kyonka to working for Echida, the stomach, and Ensawo, the pocket, with Echibaro, Chura, Aymar, Otita, the calculation for profit. Then the fourth principle is democracy. It is people that believe in these principles, which is the only way to prosperity, that I associate with politically. It is unprincipled for one to fight somebody that fights these principles. Instead, you should discuss among those who believe in these principles to determine who should represent us here or there according to the suitability. The moment you see political positions as a means of living, you then become a problem for your country. Since 1971, we left well-paying jobs to fight Idi Amin. Why? It is because we were sure that he would block our vision of patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. Previously, we had been massaging Obote because there was a possibility that he could move with us on Pan-Africanism. For example, the East African Federation. Therefore, the political actors should stop the pseudo-politics of me, because it is not only barren, but very destructive for countries. I'm happy to report to all Ugandans and the world that as we stand today, our economy is robust. The majority of the population are very happy, as you have been seeing the massive and extremely happy rallies I have been addressing. The country is peaceful, and our armed forces are at their strongest. Some of the obstacles created by some unpatriotic elements notwithstanding. By June 2026, the size of the economy will be US dollars 68.4 billion by the foreign exchange method, and US dollars 194.2 billion by the purchasing parity method, purchasing power parity method. The GDP per capita will be US dollars 1,399, meaning that Uganda is now firmly in the lower middle income status and out of the least developed countries status. All this is compared to US dollars 3.92 billion by 1986. In other words, the economy has grown 13 times in size since 1986. In quantitative terms, you can go item by item. Coffee exports were 3,060,000 kilogram bags in 1986, and they are now 8.2 million 60 kilograms bags. Bananas, 6.6 million metric tons, and now 11 million metric tons. Maize, production was 322,000 metric tons, but now it is 4 million metric tons. Milk was 200 million liters, but now it is 5.4 billion liters. Sugar was less than 100,000 metric tons, but now it's about 700,000 metric tons. Cement was 76,000 metric tons. It is now 7 million metric tons. Steel products were 50,000 metric tons, but they are now 630,000 metric tons. From almost no tourist arrivals to now about 1.6 million tourists arriving in a year. From less than 1,000 hotel beds to now about 150,000 hotel beds, etc. As I've told you before, our economy has now gone through 5 phases. And these are the minimum recovery phase, the expansion of the small recovered colonial and neo-colonial economy phase, diversification of that economy by converting more products into cash products, value addition to some of the raw materials, and finally entering the knowledge economy of making computers and vehicles and so on. We have even entered a new phase when our export earnings for goods and services are exceeding our import bill of US dollars 11.03 billion. The export earnings are US dollars 13.4 billion. This means we have got more than $2 billion surplus on the account. Our exports earnings are more than our import bill. Yes, we still have poor people. We still have unemployed graduates. We still have some bad roads because of under-budgeting for them and corruption. However, all these will be solved. Why? It is because we have already moved 70% of the homesteads into the money economy. Yet, by 2013, only 32% of the homesteads were in the money economy. A whole 68% were still abakorera ekida kyonka, teach, me each keken, working only for the stomach. At independence in 1962, only 9% of the households were in the money economy. By 1960, in our sub-county of Ntungamo, with its 8 parishes of Nyaburuza, Chikoni, Kiora, Kahunga, Musana, Nyarware, Murisa Rwenkote, and Watete's parish, I was not aware of any family that had entered the money economy other than the 6 Indian and Arab shops at the Ntungamo Trading Center, and the limping small shops of Misi at Musana, Boatete on the way to Nyartuntu, and Tinkasimire at Ntera. Therefore, seeing that 70% of the families are in the money economy now is a qualitatively new phenomenon for Uganda. Apart from peace, economic and social infrastructure, what is crucial for the masses are the personal issues of poverty, education for the children, health, and jobs. NRM has for a long time designed solutions for these mass issues. Nobody who is sincere can say that the NRM has ever overlooked or has never identified and provided for these issues. Right from 1997, the NRM provided for both UPE and Ntandikwa. We then added NADS, Operation Wealth Creation, Emioga, the Youth Fund, the Women Fund, Universal Secondary Education, etc. Targeting what? Targeting poverty and free education for the children of the poor. However, just like the Jews did not believe that Jesus was the Messiah, some groups are always not bothering to understand or use these solutions. Those who listened are doing very well. You need examples? Here are some. These are Rashida of Butambara, Apio of Lira, of the Lira area, Ogira of Abim.